Welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged chat. I'm so excited you could join us today. We have Dragonblade authors Katherine Bone and Alyxandra Harvey. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Okay. So, Katherine, can we start with your book? Your book launched this week. We had a busy week this week. We had 3 releases.
Yes.
So your book was Pretty Little Lion in the Lion's Den series. Could you tell us a little bit about the hero, especially, and then the rest too?
I'd love to. He actually came to me first, so it was exciting because I was trying to figure out who he was, and he was all muddy, and he's trying to explain what he's been doing. So, but I don't want to give too much away. But so Pretty Little Lion is like Pretty Little Liars meet Indiana Jones. And
Cool.
meets the mummy without the horror and all that stuff. But I knew I wanted to write about the British Museum, and Septimus came to me, and as someone who is a second son who had a different plan for his life, and he's a very high intellectual, and he wanted to go and do things in antiquities and things like that, but he also wanted to fight for his country. And so he studied under this one professor. It's kind of like the nutty professor, he's like really, really intelligent and so into deciphering the Rosetta Stone that he doesn't really pay attention to anything that's going on around him. He's gone to Rome, and he's excavated at Hadrian's villa, excavated the Hercules and everything. So he's really into everything, and so Septimus is as well. But Septimus's father, his brother dies, and then his father dies, and so he ends up becoming the next Baron. And so he has to come back home, and he has to give up on his adventurous lifestyle that he's traveling through the continent and everything, but he still has that spark of wanting to make a difference and wanting to help people. But he's in a position as Lord Grey, he cannot really do much of that, where he likes to be hands-on. And so he disguises himself as someone else, so that he can also do those things that he loves to do as far as getting down into the nitty-gritty. And so he ends up working for Mrs. Dove Lion at the Lion's Den. And so that's where everything kicks off.
So who does he meet at the Lion's Den?
So he has come to the Lion's Den because he's just finished a job for Mrs. Dove Lion. And when he comes there to report and to bring her the money that this gambler took off with and refused to pay his debt, when he comes back, he's had a brawl with this person in a ditch, and so he's covered in mud, and it's not easy to tell who he is. But he comes to her office. She wants everyone to be very prompt, so he knows he has to be there promptly. And he comes into the office, and he sees Charlotta Walcott is talking to Mrs. Dove Lion, and Charlotta is receiving blackmail notes, which is kind of along the lines of Pretty Little Liar with the cell phones, but they, it's with the notes. And so she's trying to get someone to help her, and she's heard that Mrs. Dove Lion has the ability to investigate things and match make people, and kind of create happy endings for people. So she's figured that's the only person she can go to, because these notes are threatening to reveal something about her father that will ruin his reputation as a renowned Cambridge professor, and as he's working with Thomas Young, and within months they're about to reveal what they discovered of the Rosetta Stone. And so all of that will be ruined for her father. So she's got to do this without anybody knowing in society. She's an only child, and her mother died at childbirth, and she was raised by her aunt. And and grew up with her 3 cousins. So she's a very independent-minded person, and she wants to become interested in antiquities and go on archaeological digs like her father has been able to do. Of course, society's not going to let her do that. So she's frustrated, and she's vowed never to marry because she lost a love a long time ago. And so when Septimus and Lottie, when Lottie meets Septimus, she doesn't recognize him because he's a complete mess. Yeah, and he's making sure she doesn't recognize him. So he's shocked to see her there, and so then everything starts from there. So it's about finding out who is blackmailing her father without letting her father know, without making sure that no one finds out about the entire blackmail scheme. And while also trying to protect her cousins, because her cousins are Earl's daughters, and she doesn't want anything. They're coming out in society. She doesn't want anything to ruin their season. So it's a lot of conflict. So
yeah, that makes sense. I loved when I read the blurb. I loved the idea that she didn't know exactly why she was being blackmailed. Because it adds this whole extra layer of mystery. I have to deal with all the society stuff, and then also figure out like why in the first place is this happening. So
yeah, and the blackmailer is insisting that she marry before season's end. And if she doesn't see her name in the society pages that she's engaged or anything, that she will take action and move against her. But she doesn't really know what this blackmailer wants, and she doesn't really
the benefit there. So.
Yeah. So it's a mystery, and it's great, and there's a wonderful twist, and I hope everybody loves that twist in the book. So
cool. Do you like writing in the Lion's Den world?
I loved it. I actually read, I read probably 7 or 8 of the books just to get started and get my, mind going into the world that they've created. And everybody had some really great ideas and some great stories. And I wanted to bring something a little different to it, something that was going to shake things up a little bit. And so that's why I came up with the idea that I came up with. So
yeah, it was great. It sounds like huge fun.
Like so
your cover is delicious.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Your cover is delicious.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Both of your covers are so good this week. So.
Yes. It's amazing what the cover artists can do for us. I'm so thrilled with that cover, and they got that ancient, the British Museum Egyptian thing really, really cool on the cover. So I was really, really pleased.
So Alex, your book is How to Marry an Earl, and it's the first book in a brand new series, the Cinderella Society series. And you have hieroglyphs on your cover, so I'm imagining that there's something.
I don't remember that.
I also call it a cross between the Mummy and Cinderella.
Oh my gosh!
See, there's so much to love about this.
Who doesn't love the Mummy?
Right, exactly.
And pretty much everybody in it. The Cinderella Society is 3 friends who are the goddaughters of the Duke of Pendleton, and he's obsessed with antiquities and barrow digging, ancient Rome. So all of his goddaughters tend to have sort of a different education than others because all of the parents want to make sure that the Duke really likes their goddaughters, so they get extra help. And Persephone, who is the main character, her father was a barrow digger as well. She lives in the same village. And it's in Wiltshire, where there was lots of barrow digging, sort of not quite at Stonehenge, but in that area. So she'll dig wherever she can, mostly because she's not allowed to. But her passion is ancient Egypt. And her best friend, Henry Talbot, the war's just over, and he's supposed to be home already. He's written her letters, and he's being framed for treason.
Oh, no.
So what he's done is he's sent home a bunch of evidence in different forgeries. Because one of Persephone's skills is that she can really tell what is an actual ancient Egyptian artifact and what is a forgery. So when the Duke holds a festival of antiquities, she's pretty sure every single relic and artifact in England is going to show up in this village. So she's looking for this evidence to clear his name. What she finds is Connell Hunter, who she used to know when they were children, because his sister is also a goddaughter of the Duke. And Connell used to be really shy. He plays the violin. He was very sort of retiring, but he's come back and not so shy anymore. He's a bit of a rake. He's been working for the War Office, and he's also looking for a traitor who he thinks is probably going to end up being Henry, but isn't sure that maybe it's not Persephone. So they circled each other because they've known each other, and he doesn't really think it's her, but all signs sort of point to the fact that it could be. Until somebody starts trying to murder her, as they do, because she's on somebody's tail and she's trying to figuring out who this person is who's framing her best friend. And the closer she gets to the answer, the more dangerous it becomes for her. So Connell decides that the best way to protect her is if they have a fake betrothal. And I do love fake dating. So they kind of do a fake betrothal during the festival while they find evidence and clear her friend's name.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite tropes, like lovers, but also fake dating. I just like that tension where they're
forced into a compact.
They have to act like it. And
the fact that they do know each other, but they're not really trusting each other because she's involved with the stuff that he's investigating, and he's so different than he used to be. So she's a little bit like, I don't know. And she doesn't think anybody's going to believe the betrothal because she intentionally ruined herself when she was 19, 20, because people wouldn't stop bugging her about getting married, and she just wanted to dig in the dirt and find old things.
I didn't know we could do that. That's like
my character Lottie would totally understand that,
right? You do what you got to do. I guess.
Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun. So the rest of the series, is it going to follow the other goddaughters, or what's the setup for the Cinderella Society?
There's 4 friends, but there's 3 who are sort of circling the marriage mart. So Persephone is the first book, and Meg is an artist, and she's in the second book, How to Marry a Duke. And she's not interested in history and antiquarian pursuits at all. She just likes art, but unfortunately she gets sort of wrapped up in a treasure hunt with the Duke. So that's kind of fun. And then the last book is Tamsin. She's a really popular in society, but kind of lonely. And she has a thing for Henry, whose name has been cleared from the first book, but he has other secrets that sort of get in the way for a while.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. Very cool. So, ladies, since both of your books are about antiquities and kind of that academic pursuit, what kind of research did you do? I know, Katherine, we had talked about research for the pirate book the last time. What kind of research do you do to before you write, and how do you keep yourself from going down rabbit holes and not coming back?
The rabbit holes are very hard. I call them the black holes because you feel like you're getting sucked into a different universe. But and no, I did the same thing. I knew I wanted to start off with the Rosetta Stone, so the first thing I did was start, studying on the Rosetta Stone, and then as I did that, I found Hadrian's Villa, the Hercules statue, and or Heracles. I can't remember how it should be pronounced, but Lord Lansdowne, who had generated this huge collection. He was a big collector of antiquities, and so he ended up, and that's why they call it the Lansdowne Hercules. And then from there it went into researching the whole how they got the articles of antiquities to England, and I thought it was fascinating that they were able to get the Rosetta Stone away from Napoleon and get it out.
Kind of a big ask.
Yeah. So it just started with that, and then I think I knew I needed to have the centrally the location would be London. I knew that I wanted to have scenes in the British Museum. I knew it wanted to be about that. I knew the Rosetta Stone was there and it was being deciphered. And so from there, I just kind of did most of the research just to find out about, the British Museum. So I researched the British Museum to see how it was in 1814 or 1813, 1814 timeframe. So a lot different than it is today. That's for sure.
I can remember.
Yeah. And I think it's the Marlborough home. I think it was the British Museum was owned by the Marlboroughs, and then they made it into the British Museum. So, but they, I think they took it, well, they added 2 wings to it and did a bunch of different things. So now it's got a courtyard instead of a garden in there. And so it's just fascinating. But I didn't use all that in my book. So that's the problem, is that I find all this yummy stuff and you can't use it all. So what do you do?
Well, but you don't know until you're in there what you need and what you don't need. So,
True.
and you probably need to know it anyway. So
Yeah, that's so true.
Alex, what about you? How do you do research for your books?
For this one in particular, I've always been interested in archaeology and I've always loved museums. So Persephone has always wanted a museum and she gets to do that a little bit and later on in the series. So some of that was already there, but because at the end of the Napoleonic War, they had sort of an Egypt mania where they just fell in love with it because all these artifacts are coming in and all were being stolen as well, to be honest. And it like seeped into the decor, into people who actually didn't care but wanted to have a mummy in their dining room because it was fashionable.
I know.
The details and they like mummy unwrapping parties as just like a thing to do.
No, really? Seriously? Like actually
unwrapping it. Oh, look, there's a dead body. Wrap it back up. That was a great party with tea. Like,
because he doesn't right?
I mean, they also used to like grind up mummy bones and like put it in your hot chocolate and you would drink it to like cure your headache or.
Oh, I had not heard of that. Oh my goodness.
Oh, your chocolate.
I'm not going to look at hot chocolate the same way again.
Yeah.
Sorry. Those are the details I love. So those are the details that I had Persephone love. So I did have to do some research for ancient Egyptian details specifically that I didn't know or couldn't remember. Like just small details. Those are my favorite. Like the movements of armies. It's important, but honestly, But what they ate and the fact that they would put it in hot chocolate, that's my cup of tea.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know. I love that. Did you put that in your book? Did you have something like that?
I put that in a different book, I think later in the series. But yeah, so essentially, if you end up time traveling to the Regency without knowing it, do not drink the chocolate until you ask some questions.
Okay. Wow. I did not know that about the chocolate.
You can't get over the mummy unwrapping parties, though. Like, wouldn't you just like lay it out on the dining room table and everybody comes?
My research didn't take me to that point, and I think I would have wanted just to learn more. So it's probably a good thing.
It's hard not to keep going once you get those details, and you're like, 3 days later, I should probably write the book.
Yeah.
So do you segment yourself off when you're doing research? Do you do it all at once before you start the book, or do you write through places until you get stuck? And then, I mean, we talked a little bit, Katherine, I think we talked a little bit the last time about writing process, but Alex, we've never talked about that. Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? How do you figure out your way through the book?
I do both. I sort of do heavy research in the beginning just to get things sort of moving and then find those little details. And then just to get that, I don't know, that sort of a feel for the book.
Immerse yourself in the time period and things like that.
Yeah. And then I come up into weird little spots where I need to do more research. I know a lot of people just keep writing and just put like a little X in the manuscript and they come back to it later.
I
can't do that.
Can't either. Yeah, stop. Everything stops right there on a dime, and I gotta go find it.
Right, I needed to know what was in Cleopatra's perfume, and that was it. I needed to know right then. So, which actually I don't mind so much as long as I don't get too far in the rabbit hole, because invariably some other detail comes up, and then I get another idea, and it sort of helps speed that process. So, I'm definitely
makes sense that the getting out of the rabbit hole is a huge lift.
Yeah. Our processes are very similar, Alex.
Comfortable in the rabbit hole.
It is comfortable there.
There's fun things in there.
You're learning fun stuff, and you're not actually having to write the book.
Exactly. And I used to be just a pantser, and now I sort of start as a pantser, and then halfway through turn more into a bit of a plotter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, Katherine, you said your process was similar?
Huh?
You said your process was similar. Do you plot?
I do have like a basic plot. I don't outline or anything like that because I tried that once, and when I outlined, I felt like I'd already written the book, and so I totally lost interest. Is that what happens to you, Alex?
Exactly.
You have that
80%
problem?
you know what's going on. It's like, it's done.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point? It's
I know what's
already.
going to happen.
I'm very minimal about what I post, and I know what I need to know my setting first. So I need to know what I want to focus around. I knew it wanted to be the Rosetta Stone, so I knew what time frame I needed to have there, and then from that point, I knew what I needed to find out at the British Museum and what I needed to find out from society at the time. And talking about sidebars, I got really fascinated by the musicians that they bring into balls, and found these two musicians that were in high demand, and put one in the book. The book. So when people read that, yeah, those guys really played at all those balls. Stuff like that those are like prizes, aren't they? Little gemstones, and you just grasp those, and you're so excited when you get them, and you want to include them in the book, like what's in Cleopatra's perfume, right?
Exactly.
Readers get to come along with you, which is the part that I really love. I love when a book is well researched and I know I can trust the information that I'm getting, because then I can like give myself over more fully to the experience of immersing, of immersion into the world, which is part of the beauty of the escape part. I like that.
Yeah, it's real important to me, and I'm sure it is to you, that you mesh. It's a meshing, right? It's a interlocking and weaving of the past, and how people's emotions never change, right? Or our humanity is the same throughout the ages. Just dependent on our climate and our what's going on in the world. But to be able to immerse history and your ideas from today and your storylines, and to make and meld them, right, to where it actually seems like, wow, this could have happened. That to me is, if you can ever try to achieve that, and I know you can't, it's never going to be perfect, but I'm a perfectionist, and so that's a problem I have. But especially with the research, I'll keep researching, but it's just something that I long to do, is like to make that nice interlocking story with true history and everything else in there, so that when you're reading it, you're also learning too, which is cool.
Yeah.
And there's an element of fantasy, I think, too, especially to my historical romance, but to most, because most of my heroes aren't going to have cholera, or like this.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I'm just not putting in there.
Ones anyway.
Right? And it's important. It is history, but because there is that element of sort of fantastical history, the history part has to be so accurate. It has to have a really strong foundation for it to land and still feel like part of the story, still feel possible. Right. Because obviously not cholera.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Important.
With the willing suspension of disbelief, you have to give me something real to hold on to. So.
Exactly. And I think we all tend to be very particular. Like if they're taking a stagecoach, I want to know that stagecoach actually went there. Like how long it was. The horses.
I feel like we're kindred spirits, guys. Me too. I have to know what the route was, what time of day it left. I have to have the schedule. It's, where did they stop off on their little, what do you call it?
The inns.
The inns, the inns and things like that. So,
I remember C.H. Moran talked once about going through a whole bunch of weapons to find something that she could hide in a reticule. Like she had to make sure it was small enough that she could actually, and that a lady could use it. And it's like I know that lots of those things don't necessarily the details don't necessarily make it into the book, but I think when the author knows them, it has a huge impact on how the book feels when you read it. Even if details don't exactly make it in. Awesome. Well, both of the books sound really exciting. I'm tickled with the similarities this week too. Can you guys tell me a little bit about what you're working on next? I know, Alex, you've got 2 more books in this series.
And they're finished.
So that's exciting.
It is exciting. It's a trilogy. There's lots of other characters, so I could see a whole bunch of other books in that particular world.
I love that when that happens. That's so nice.
Yeah.
You get to know the side characters, like, hey, I kind of like you. You're interesting. Or I had no idea, but you won't leave me alone. So now I had to tell your story. Also happens. So right now I took a few weeks off, and now that's too long. I don't like it. So I'm trying to find a new world.
Well, that'll be fun. So do you think you're going to continue in this series, or do you think you're going to start a new one?
I would like to do both. I mean, I always want to do Regency. So I guess it depends on if people want that more of those characters first, or because of publishing is it's such a long game. So by the time I know if people want this character and I want to write it, it's 2 years later. So I've already written 4 other things. So
I found that out too. So,
Katherine, what are your plans for your next book?
I'm working on a Christmas series, and I've got the first draft, and so now I'm going through and doing some good developmental things. And I'd like to write. I have planned to write the second book to that this year also. Just I'm not sure about the timing of when I'll release them yet. But I have a short story. It's called The Pirate's Yuletide Treasure. And
cool.
It's free right now. It's very short, 19 pages. But it was part of a box set thing, and all the profits went to Toys for Tots.
Oh, wow.
We did it. And all the stories were written in Chaucer style. So it kind of ends abruptly, it kind of starts abruptly.
Like
and
Canterbury Tale-esque.
It is, yes. And anyway, I just
very naughty.
Yeah, well, right. I tried not to go there, but it was a brothel.
No pear trees.
But I had so many good comments, and people were saying, I wish I knew what happened before they got to this brothel. So,
cool.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the 1813, 1814 winter was like the coldest ever until several years ago, maybe the 70s or something. But and everybody in Canterbury who were coming to make their quest to see Thomas Becket, or celebrate Thomas Becket, they got stuck there in Canterbury in the blizzard, and so people were having to take them into their homes and offer them, lodging and things like that. So it's kind of like there's no room at the inn, right? So, the brothel lady, Frau Klaus, she brings people into her brothel, so they're there. And
hospitality.
Yes, of course it is. And so they're celebrating Christmas there. And so it was a really wonderful idea, and I've always wanted to expand on it. And so what I've done is I've written the first book. It's about a captain, and he's a prisoner of war. And then and the second book is going to be about the lieutenant who's a surgeon that was held captive with him. And then the third book will be about the smuggler from the Pirate's Yuletide Treasure.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's one thing that
sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun. So we had a third Dragonblade book released this week. Maeve wasn't able to join us. She'll be here on a future broadcast. But her book was Scott of Her Own, and it's the first book in the Once Upon a Scott series, and it's the Dragonblade Flame line, which when you were talking about the Canterbury Tales made me think of it. Yeah. Because that is the Dragonblade Steamy line. So.
Okay.
So we'll let Maeve talk about that in a couple of weeks, but I'll make sure that I put the link to that and to both of your books in the chat, so that if you haven't had a chance to pick up these books yet, you'll be able to get them right away. And Dragonblade books are their best value of pre-order and release. So you want to get them while they're fresh, while they're new, and then you'll have lots of fun weekend reading. And I think that the two of your books pair so nicely together that it would be fun to go from one to the other.
I'm off to buy Alex's now.
I think that would be great. Yeah. So, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this week. I really do appreciate it. We'll look forward to reading. For everybody else, we'll be back here the same time next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Nice to meet you, Alex.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.